morning. It is the Feel Good Friday edition of Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
You're starting Feel Good Friday with a bunch of booing?
I thought it was fabulous. I loved it. It was great. That was the mystery
like train wreck sound effects.
That was Busch Stadium opening day after the introduction of John Maziliak. It was great.
And I have confirmed Scott Faughn was not there leading the booing, although I'm sure he was booing all the way from Wardsville.
But the Cardinals proved him wrong as they won the opener. So good to them.
I think we could have beaten the Marlins, but okay.
8-5. Well, there you go. And
my nickname when I played softball was Hammer Time. So.
Oh, listen to this. Whoa. And of course,
I'm humble about it, though. You know.
Yeah, we can tell. Yeah, your humility overwhelms me. Is the middle name Donald? No, just saying. But Scott was tweeting more about his son and his prowess on the baseball field than the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think that's why they missed opening day, because there was a lot of opening days for the little leaguers around mid-Missouri.
Yeah, he thinks he's going to be the next, Lou Brock or, Orlando Cepeda or Albert Pujols maybe. Who knows?
There you go.
There's lots going on. It's Eclipse Watch is on. I went into the store the other day to pick up something. There was a little display with eclipse balloons spelling out eclipse. I bought a couple of the $1.99 glasses that said ISO on them, wondering if it said made in USA, but if you're Chinese, you could print on glasses made in USA. So I have no clue. I may be blind on Tuesday. I don't know. Are we going to be
blind and deaf?
I don't really get the eclipse hype. Now, I will say last time I kind of was poopy pants about the eclipse the whole time, and I was like, oh, this is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. When it actually happened, it was pretty cool.
There
was 20 seconds.
And there was supposed to be an eclipse on my wedding day.
Really?
And we either missed it or it was just too cloudy for us to see it. But this is supposed to be a total eclipse, right? It's going to be as dark as nighttime almost for a few minutes.
95% totality for us. If you go down to Cape Girardeau, they'll have the 100%.
And it is for the tourism people, it's insane. Like, it books out hotels years in advance. The people who are like eclipse people or like Disney adults or I don't know, other cults, and they are serious. And it's a big business for a lot of people.
Law
and
enforcement putting out the cautions about potential jam traffic everywhere.
Well, and the hospitals are on high alert in the areas that you'll be able to see the eclipse best, just because there's going to be so many people in town.
So why would that lead to, so you're standing there watching an eclipse.
Maybe you're tailgating beforehand.
Why are the ERs going to be overrun?
Could be all that traffic, potential traffic accidents too.
Yeah.
Oil is bumping at $90 a barrel, and that is a big story to me because I just looked at my
of your big old truck.
My big truck's fuel tank, and it was pushing empty. I got 61 miles on the little, fill empty.
Plenty of time. That's plenty of time.
No, but I keep thinking it's going to go down, but it's not going to go out.
What's diesel up to now?
I don't even know. I don't even want to look. It's a Feel Good Friday, and we all have our red on. You've got your red on. You got your cards red on. Hannah's got her red on. I didn't see. Does Hauswirth have his red on? No? We'll make sure. Brian will be in a minute.
Sure he does.
But there is something that could potentially be pretty inflammatory over there in the Middle East, which is that's largely what's driving oil prices north. And we are keeping an eye on the CIA's warning that Iran may attack the Israelis within 48 hours. And they may be attacking Israeli embassies around the globe. That's what a lot of the experts are saying. So on the serious side of things, we are watching that. And it was will be in response, allegedly, to Israel's, according to one intelligence official, reckless attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria, which killed one of their top generals for the IGF, or the Iranian forces there, the Likud. So we're going to have to watch and see what happens. I'm really nervous about what's going on over in the Middle East, and I don't want to be a Chicken Little about it, but at a minimum,
yes.
At a minimum, it's driving our oil prices crazy, and that is a national security threat to America. This will tank our economy. Every time the oil prices go crazy, fuel prices go up, it really has tremendous impact. Remember, Joe Biden said the other day he's not going to be replacing the strategic oil reserve. Just going to call a pause on it now, because after he drained it for political means to lower prices ahead of the 21-22 election cycle, And what happened, because Putin started a war, the prices went up, he drained the oil, gave us temporary, modest relief. Now we don't have that strategic oil reserve. What happens if we run into a big problem? I guess it's maybe elect a different president who likes to say, drill, baby, drill. Brian Hauswirth joins us. Now you have your red on. Good man.
Absolutely.
What about the team yesterday, the Cardinals? I got to ask you, you follow the sports game, 8-5? I mean, how did the Cardinals look to you? I didn't get a chance to see the game. Did you watch it?
Just a quick follow-up real quick, and I'll answer your question on the previous thing about the gas prices. I noticed a former reporter in St. Louis tweeted something or retweeted something yesterday saying the next time people start talking about inflation and high gas prices, they need to add these companies are making record profits. So it's just
well, they had record losses during pandemic too.
Supply and demand. I mean, it's just we've talked about it so many times, Randy, but that really kind of grabbed my attention. Interesting game in St. Louis. I know a lot of folks were there. It was kind of a cold day, and I think more the atmosphere was the biggest story. But the Cardinals did win 8-5. A lot of the Cardinal Hall of Famers were there. Whitey Herzog was at the game, but he was actually watching from a suite. Obviously, health issues with him, so I'm thinking about him. I thought the guy that looked the best of all the Hall of Famers and the Team Hall of Famers and the MLB Hall of Famers was Willie McGee. Willie McGee, number 51, looked like he could play today.
Wow.
And it was tremendous to see him. He literally, he looked fantastic.
He was a heck of a ball player in his day.
Yes, he was. He wore his actual uniform down there on the field.
I'm reading a headline on the Hill. As Florida bans legal abortion, where will 84,000 women go? I have an idea. Why don't they go and deliver?
Big dreams start early. That's why the children's school at Stevens College is dedicated to
Don't look at me. That's all you.
Why don't they go and deliver a baby is what I'd like to think. I don't know, but that's another story.
You looked at me like Hannah, what are you doing?
I don't know. This whole debate. We live in a real interesting time in America where there are such polarized views based on worldviews that are so 180 degrees at odds with one another. I just keep scratching my head on this. Where's it all going to end? This is going to be the most fascinating election cycle of our time. I think this is going to make the Reagan election look like a distant nothing of a memory. I mean, I just think this is a tumultuous time, and people are going to have to make a stand on where they really think about the important things in life, what's absolutely essential, and maybe less about some of the other things. But it's a day when we think about fluffy stuff, so we're going to talk about some of that, including there's a fun story. Hannah, we never talked about it yesterday, and I think it's in a way a good story because there's a man who was handcuffed at the Kansas City Chiefs post-rally, when the shooting happened. And the guy, I mean, he's fighting back, but it's good to see that he's fighting back. I'm glad to see that,
Well, on that story that you're referencing, that gets back, Randy. We were doing live coverage that night, you and I, on both the Eagle and on KWS. Mm-hmm. And I remember I said on air, and you agreed with me, and we talked about it. I said, we are going to hold off because I saw that picture of the gentleman you're referring to, and I saw other pictures, and people kept saying they wanted to know who the suspects are, pictures. And I said, just because somebody is handcuffed, or it doesn't mean that it has to do with the shooting. We had to be careful, and it could have been somebody that and I don't know this particular situation, but it could have been somebody that was drunk. There were like 8 photos that we kept seeing, and I believe he was one of them. But
Denton Loudermill,
he was one of them.
He was the guy with the shaved head and sort of the bright, kind of like a red jumpsuit at the time.
And he
red clothes.
Filed nearly identical federal lawsuits Tuesday against 3 Republican Missouri state senators. Rick Bratton, who's been involved in the landfill filibuster and that whole bill. He filed
Freedom Caucus.
That bill. Freedom Caucus guy. Denny Hoskins of Warrensburg and Nick Schroer.
Freedom Caucus guy.
All Freedom Caucus guys. The complaint says Loudermill suffered humiliation, embarrassment, insult, and inconvenience over the highly offensive post. Nick Schroer's a radio friend, and I get along fine with Nick. He's on another station. I do a Saturday morning show on that station. I have for years. And I tell you, he's a decent guy. Denny Hoskins, a decent guy. Rick Bratton, a decent guy. Family guy. Something about the political atmosphere and the celebrity of it and the shrill nature of our communications these days, I think leads people to say things that they maybe in retrospect wishes they wouldn't have said. And I live in that glass house too. I think that the sign of our times is it's a time of little restraint and lots of mouth.
And the problem was lots of folks on Twitter, including these Freedom Caucus members, were posting this gentleman's photo, trying to make it sound like he was somehow involved in the shooting. And they were also claiming that he was an illegal immigrant. And he's from Kansas.
Yeah, well, we're not in Kansas anymore, are we?
I don't know. For a lot of Mizzou fans out there, they'd probably agree with that stuff.
Okay, touche.
But I think it's kind of a lesson for us all because everyone kind of wants to be first. They want to jump to conclusions. They want to have the clickbait. Politicians get wrapped up in that as well. And if you don't have the facts, Brian Hauswirth and John Marsh will be the first ones to tell you, and Brian and John do a really good job. They will say, well, so-and-so said this.
That's right.
And then you're kind of protected because you're attributing it to somebody else. And if it turns out to be wrong, you didn't say it.
You can throw the other guy under the bus.
And it's about attribution, though. It really, Stephanie, you're absolutely right about that.
And we try to say, too, if we're going to analyze or give opinion on a story, we often will say, especially if it's in the early stages, there's a lot of speculation, we'll say, look, if this is true, I have a real problem with it. Or if this is true, applause and kudos for this person.
And I would just add one
they left their attorney's name off of the list. They forgot to include a current financial statement. Sounds kind of like the bond company paperwork was bad. Not that like necessarily Trump's lawyers did it wrong. I'm going to let you in on a little secret.
What's that?
Lawyers make mistakes a lot.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. Could you put that in a promo? You compared me to Eric Greitens yesterday. You got to get her on something.
That wasn't me. That was Stephanie.
But lawyers are people too, and there are really strict requirements a lot of times with various filings, especially around like this type of stuff.
It was hurriedly put together.
Lawyer lives matter.
Yeah, well, with with like I've seen it with people's briefs filed here in Missouri, and they do something slightly wrong, and they put like on big red letters, and you get a thing from the court that says rejected, and then and your heart sinks, for the person when it happens. You're like, oh gosh.
And Stephanie's seen a lot of briefs.
Oh,
and
I thought we talked enough about briefs yesterday.
Well, and then they just then you just refile it. The court's like, do this over, get it right, okay, and then you just move on.
What about this guy was like a subprime used car guy, though, or something, right? I mean, he's sort of a shady business character, isn't he?
I mean, does he have the money?
Well, that's the question, because the financials weren't there. Maybe he doesn't. I guess that remains to be seen.
Well, I suspect they will get this shored up today,
and
the court will just move on.
Letitia James, though, I mean, she's a barracuda. She's just not letting go on this.
Well, she has Trump derangement syndrome.
It's sort of like mad cow disease, but in a different realm.
Right.
What
all right.
else
Well,
is up?
today we are expecting Biden to go to Baltimore regarding the bridge. He is first going to go meet with the Maryland Transportation Authority, then go to talk to state and local officials, and then, of course, meet with the families of the bridge workers who were killed in the accident.
Isn't he the guy who said he rode the train across the car bridge?
He certainly did.
Yeah.
Time after time after time. Yes, he did.
All right. So he will be there. Again, we are kind of waiting on his plan for how much the federal government will be on the hook for fixing it. I think yesterday he indicated that he is going, he will do everything he can to get this bridge replaced and get it replaced quickly. So we will be watching that. The other news we were getting out yesterday, no labels, has no candidate. And we thought they were going to be a really big deal. They had, flirted with Joe Manchin and some other folks. And they said, I guess the national director came out and said that the hero candidate the group was looking for never emerged. And I thought, you can say that again, because sometimes it feels like we're voting between the lesser of two evils. All right.
What a slap in the face to.
When we talked to Jay Nixon about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was
Really?
he was helping with ballot access for that group. But yeah, they never found their
I wonder
candidate.
when Joe Lieberman died, I wonder if that took a little bit of the wind out of the sails. Because, I mean, it was a fall. It wasn't like he was chronically ill.
1980s and asking the governor to spare him. They've had a bunch of corrections staffers say that he should also be spared because he's a model inmate. The family of the victims does not concur.
Well, he did play for Pete Atkins is someone who is just, John played for him too. John ran track for Pete Atkins. Pete Atkins, when we use the word legendary, that actually is putting it mildly, John. I mean, he's at one time, I mean, he was like so revered and still is in Jefferson City, but it's rare. He doesn't, go ahead.
My dad played for him as well. And You're right. He's been brought in on issues, including political issues. John, I remember he filmed a video the last time they were trying to build that new high school. And I think it made a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big part of it. People pointed to Coach Atkins' video because at the time, it was said, well, they'll never build a second public Jeff City high school as long as Pete Atkins is around. And he jumped on the video, Brian. You might remember it. He looked at the camera and said, it's time.
Yeah, exactly. And that would have been unheard of, let's say, in 1995, because that issue was on the ballot in Jefferson City for a second high school, and it failed. But you're right. It made a difference. But I would just add one thing. He generally doesn't get involved in, this is not an issue you normally hear Pete Atkins talk about, capital punishment. I've never heard him talk about it. But this guy, Dorsey, played for him on the 1988 championship team. I remember the game. It was right here in Columbia. It was at Faurot Field. The Jays, John will remember, won the game 53-0 against McClure North. I mean, completely dominated. And Dorsey played for him. Yes, he is asking the governor to get involved, but obviously the family of this family that got killed, Sarah Bonney, her husband Ben, they do not feel the same way. They were both shot in the head, execution style, with a shotgun. She was raped. This guy stole Bambi. This is indisputed, by the way, from the court documents. He stole a car. He stole firearms. He stole a Social Security card. Now, his argument is he was on drugs. He had a drug problem. He also believes there have been errors. But this is a case where really, I think it's very important to note. We saw this, and I'm not comparing the two, with this thing with the Chiefs football coach, his son, when the governor granted clemency to Reed. A lot of people were upset about that, but there's a lack of understanding among people. Whether or not that's a good policy issue or not, I'll let you all debate that. The governor, folks, has the right, quite frankly, with what most of you don't realize, if the governor wanted to, he could let them all go out of the prison right now. He won't do that, but he has the authority. If he wanted to, he could spare inmates, and we've seen it done. He's
commuted a lot of sentences during his term, too.
He has commuted a lot of sentences, but not execution dates. So then there is a difference on that. Daryl Meese was commuted. The Pope came to St. Louis in 1999 and told Governor Carnahan, spare Mr. Meese, and Governor Carnahan supported the death penalty. And the next day, he commuted his sentence. So it's very important, reporters out there that are listening, when you say that, he wants clemency, and John and I are being very clear on here, what he's saying is he's not asking the Dorsey to be released. He's not asking for that at all. He's simply asking the governor to block the execution and instead for Dorsey to get life in prison without parole.
Yeah, and here is just a few seconds of a clip of Coach Pete from ABC 17.
I don't believe we need to take a life from a young man like that, and I would think that that would be a hard call for you to make, and I hope you won't make that call.
Him talking to Governor Parson.
Wow. Well, and I like to go back and look at the data, and it's really it's interesting because I think a lot of times, they think, Republican governor and, death penalty. But if you go back just here recently, there were 15 executions under Bob Holden, 5 under Matt Blunt, 21 under Jay Nixon, just 1 under Eric Greitens, and now 9 thus far under Parson.
And to be fair, Stephanie, and you're absolutely right. This gets back to context. You're absolutely right about that, not being critical of you, but I've seen those numbers in the media. You're absolutely right, but it's the Missouri Supreme Court that set those dates, not those governors.
Sure, but those governors
they allowed them to happen.
They would have all had the opportunity then to commute. Yeah,
exactly. But there's the people out there think that the corrections department decides when to execute people. Those are set by the Missouri Supreme Court. The governor really, and by the way, that bite that Hannah just played was extremely powerful. We'll see what happens, but it was absolutely horrific. This was a horrific double homicide. Then he was on the run for some time. See, he was John remembers this. He believed drug dealers were after him, and they may have been. I don't think there's anybody disputing that. And the drug dealers going to try to kill him. So his cousin and her husband took this guy in, and that's why the family wants him to be put to death, because they feel like he betrayed their trust. I think what the coach is saying is, we should spare his life, and that's what he's asking the governor to do, to basically commute it to life in prison without parole. It's very emotional, but a lot of people don't realize he played for the Jays and was on a championship team. He did. He was on that team that Rick Henry was on that team. A lot of our listeners on KWS will remember. But Dorsey, coach is 99, I believe, right now when he's saying he's a young man. Dorsey's 52 years old, so he's middle-aged right now. But to Pete, that's young, obviously, and we'll see what happens. But the governor, I did check yesterday. The governor is still reviewing that. I checked with Kelly Jones. Governor, it's not just Pete Atkins, but there are others asking for it as well. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. We may not get an announcement from the governor on what he decides until Monday.
And it's set for Tuesday.
Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. There's a 24-hour window. The Supreme Court sets an execution date, and it used to be at 12:01 a.m. It would give them 24 hours. They still have a 24-hour window, but the execution would take place sometime between the hours of 6 p.m. on Tuesday and 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And what's going to happen right now, their primary focus, the defense attorneys, are getting clemency. They're working on that. But they have a backup plan, I'm sure. Their backup plan would be a flurry of paperwork to the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, get a judge to block it, even put a hold on it. Ultimately, it will go to the U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday if the governor doesn't step in. So, and their aim would be tie it up in court, get a judge to block it, and if they can get it blocked in that 24-hour window, then it would be months before they can set it to take place. But this is an uphill battle for the Dorsey legal team.
They've tried several avenues already, even going after the acting director of corrections, say statutorily he doesn't have the authority to conduct an execution.
I have never heard that used as a legal mechanism. I've read that, and basically the judge said send that back if the Missouri Supreme Court wants to take that up. Again, that will be whether Trevor Foley's acting or not. The Supreme Court has ordered DOC to carry out the execution. And Trevor Foley's not the one that puts the guy to death. They have a staff that does that. But no, that is an interesting argument. We'll see if that holds any weight. And by the way, I've covered executions. I worked at corrections. That prison will be a fortress, literally a fortress on Tuesday. It's you would not believe the security in Bonne Terre when they have an execution like that, how much security there is. And at some point, he's in Potosi right now. He'll be transported over to the Bonne Terre prison, which is about 20 miles away.
And by covered, you mean you've witnessed an execution.
I witnessed.
And since it's a Feel Good Friday, we're not going to relive that. But you have told that story here and what a powerful experience it was in your life. It's just one, though, right?
That was the only one, and I covered that. It was my first execution and the only one that I actually witnessed. It was Mark Christensen, who killed 3 people in Marys County, but yes.
I think, zooming out a bit, I think this issue is so interesting. A couple years ago when I went to CPAC, there was a huge, all-day event amongst conservatives debating on criminal justice and a long panel, interesting panel, really thoughtful discussion about, as conservatives, where folks are at on the death penalty. And I think that's really interesting. And we've talked about it here on the show. And I think it was actually Trey Fauché who said, I think one of the issues that conservatives are wrong on, as a pro-life individual is the death penalty. And so, as we talk about how important this next election cycle is and where the party goes and what you really stand for and principles, I think, we're talking about it in one instance, but I think when you zoom out, this issue, I think is an interesting one as the conservative movement goes forward.
Yeah, I agree with that, and you're absolutely right politically. And Paul Whelan, Stephanie, who you knew very well, former state senator from Imperial, staunch conservative, Republican, huge Republican. He carried the bill every year to abolish the death penalty. He never could even get a hearing most years, and there's a bill this year, it won't go anywhere. Chad Perkins, Google that name, Chad Perkins, folks, Bowling Green, Missouri. He is one of the most conservative Republicans, to Stephanie's point, probably politically to the right of Jerry Falwell. He has a bill to ban the death penalty as well. So it really isn't there are some conservative Republicans who don't like the death penalty.
And yet, according to the data, Missouri per capita ranks third between 1976 and 2023 in executing individuals.
That's the realm of, if you're pro-life, be pro-life all the way, right? Even for killers.
Well,
we had to reach out to our friend Kevin Green of Jefferson City, who is a big supporter of the Innocence Project and who was spared after spending 16 years in California prisons. It was found not guilty.
Yeah, and that got national attention. Again, very important to note, it's the Missouri Supreme Court that schedules the execution date, so we'll see what happens on that. But that video was I thought very interesting, and we'll see. And clearly, Pete Atkins is talking directly to the governor, even though he's looking at the camera. I watched the video. He's talking directly to the governor. I thought it was powerful, and we'll see what happens. And it's going to be a tough decision for the governor, I'm sure.
All right. Well, that it's a weighty and a very heavy subject, and it is good to have spirited debate about that.
this again.
I'm not happy about it either, trust me.
Trudy Bush Valentine.
Yeah. Almost 2 years old, that song at this point.
Really?
Yeah, time flies,
It's
right?
like an earworm. Once you hear it, you can't get rid of it
Yeah,
all
that
day
one-
in a bad way.
That one needs to go to solitary confinement and throw away the key.
Put her out the pasture at Grant's farm, right?
It didn't do her any favors, though. I mean, I guess she won the primary, but
Yeah.
she didn't. Ultimately, she can just maybe she like goes to bed at night with that song playing.
Talking about some not so goodies but oldies, and now there's a not so well. I don't know. I may differ than.
Of course
the
you
crowd
would.
in the-
Of course you
Well,
would.
I'm trying to find the positive in what on the surface may be considered negative.
Since when?
From a performance value standpoint, the latest Bill Eigel post celebrates a couple of his buddies, a couple of his supporters who got together, wrote a song, and I guess here it is.
Eigel is the eagle to make Missouri fly. Eigel is the eagle to make Missouri fly. Show me a true Republican. Show me who loves the land. Show me our next governor. Bill Eigel is our man.
Can we just have like a blanket rule of like no homemade songs for candidates?
They need to paste that over the video of him when he was using the flamethrower. Remember
there we
that one? Burning the pile of books.
Yeah.
There's 30 more seconds of it if we want to keep listening.
I think maybe we should save everybody. Randy, I mean, you're a musician. Like, I think you should pick a candidate and do like a trombone solo or something. And
Well, you can't really sing and play the trombone
you
at the
could-
same time.
That candidate would get no further campaign donations if I did that. But here's another take on this. This is a couple of good old boys, one playing his guitar, one playing his banjo. They go to the trouble of writing a song in this populist age, and Bill Eigel is a populist candidate.
They're wearing very cute matching sweaters.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think this may resonate with people. This may resonate with people because it's clearly not a professionally produced thing. It's just a couple of good old boys. They probably just got done celebrating the Cardinals' victory and, drinking a couple of Bud Lights and, well, maybe not Bud Lights. I don't know. This may actually...
But if I'm like the Eigel people, I'm like, well, then get some like push pieces and go door to door and like tell your neighbors about me. Like, I don't need a song. I need, boots on the ground.
Well, the Eigel campaign took this video and essentially added B-roll of Bill Eigel out at campaigns and speeches and things like that. They turned it fully into a campaign video.
I think they're smart to do that. I really do. Because
I think we need to put Doctor up to doing the T-Bone solo from Ain't Misbehaving to make a campaign song out of that.
Maybe we could commission these guys to write a song about Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And of course, if they're listening right now, the song they would write probably wouldn't be very nice.
I mean,
but
the only song that I think is hated more than the Trudy Bush Valentine song was the original Wake Up.
Oh, don't start. Don't get the OGs started.
Yeah, let's not go after that one. That one was retired for a reason.
It was universal. You were in two camps. You either loved it
Really?
and did dances to it and sent them to us, or you hated it.
Little kids loved it, which
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about it, but it was a big hit among the little kids.
All right, Randy,
Doing the
it's on you.
flip-flop dance.
Yeah.
I think you ought to play it so we can get some text opinion on it. We're having text opinion come in on capital punishment. It's interesting. One guy switched his allegiance. The Son of Man saved an adulterous woman from being stoned to death. Other people say, did the accused give the people he killed a stay of execution? I mean, so...
We had I believe it was Roger on the texter, said that Coach Pete Adkins should meet the family of the victims.
That's right. When we come back, Becky
not
Arps,
again.
ranked choice voting, constitutional amendment.
To make Missouri fly. If you want more taxes, more regulations too, then vote for Jay or Kehoe. They'll force them onto you. Eigel is the eagle to make Missouri fly. Eigel is the eagle to make Missouri fly.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Here's your host, Randy Tobler.
We're winding it down on a busy week here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Getting ready for Eclipse Watch. And things going on, though, in the Missouri legislature that sometimes may be flying under the radar, but are really critically important to your life and can be in the future because it affects things like your voting and education and so forth. So we're going to cover a little bit of that right now with Becky Arps, the much, much better half of Chris Arps. Right, Becky? Welcome in.
Thank you so much for the compliment. I don't know that I'm the better part. I think we are an amazing pair together, and I thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you this morning.
You are an amazing couple. There's no doubt about that, and do a lot in the political realm, in the conservative ranks, and we're thankful for that. Now, the Missouri Senate gave approval this week to an issue that I know that's been talked about a lot, and the pros and the cons of ranked choice voting. There were some other provisions, but tell us about this SJR 78, what it is, what it means, and what folks who are for it rather than against it may want to do in terms of getting an opportunity to pass it.
Well, there's SJR 78 and there's HJR 104, and what both of these are is they are the opportunity to change the Constitution so that it says that only United States citizens can vote instead of all citizens of the United States. Seems like it would be unnecessary, but unfortunately people are using things like all and every to state that means that all United States citizens can vote and maybe non-citizens can vote too.
So this seems like this isn't a difference without a distinction. I mean, there is really a difference here, huh? I mean,
there is really a difference. In fact, in San Francisco, when San Francisco passed legislation allowing non-citizens to vote, somebody argued against it. And when they argued against it in the courts, the San Francisco city attorney came back and said, well, if you wanted it to be only citizens, the Constitution should say only citizens instead of every or all.
Yeah, and so Becky's right in that the courts have used the same language that Missouri has currently to interpret it and to allow local governments to go ahead and allow non-citizens to vote. Now, Becky, a lot of things, this has been somewhat intertwined with the initiative petition reform. And I think non-citizen voting was added in there, and everyone was just saying ballot candy. That's ballot candy, and it doesn't matter because our Constitution already protects that. I mean, beyond, is that what you're using to combat that? Is the San Francisco case, or are there other arguments for why it should be included in initiative petition reform, or why you prefer it separately?
I think it's fantastic in initiative petition reform because it changes the initiative petition action so that it is only citizens. Because, again, in San Francisco, they did a recall election, and non-citizens, they had a big question. Could non-citizens sign the recall election? I'm specifically talking about Ben Brown's bill, SJR 78, which is talking about anti-ranked choice voting and citizen-only voting.
And thank goodness for that anti-ranked choice voting. I mean, they've made a run at Missouri, the last 2 cycles, and then they've been targeting other states. And I think it would be disastrous for Missouri. What are you learning from your about ranked choice in other states?
Every place that ranked choice voting happens, people hate it. When we were working in Maine a couple years ago, we'd talk about only citizen voting, and they're just like, yes, we want only citizens to vote, and we don't want ranked choice voting. It's confusing, and it's not really super clear. I was thinking about it this morning. So if I rank who my candidates are in the order that I want them, I don't know that my vote actually counted for anything.
Well, Becky, talk to us, about the confusion over the whole thing, over ranked choice voting, what exactly it is.
Well, when it comes to ranked choice voting, what they'll tell you is that it's super easy because then I get to put in order who I want to be elected. And then it goes into this magic machine, and that magic machine is going to figure out who everybody's first choices are. And then if if their first choice isn't high enough, then who their second choices are, and if their second choice isn't high enough, who their third choice is. How do I know that math worked out in a way that's correct?
All right. Well, I think it's interesting, but it does sort of remind me of some of the things that this woke, everyone has to get a ribbon kind of a mentality that starts in the schools. Everyone has to eventually win bingo. We don't close the game down until everyone's walked away with a prize. That it just there. You either win or you lose. You win or you don't. I don't know. Well, Becky Arps joins us and advocating for SJR 78 about saying no to ranked choice voting and saying that only citizens vote. Passed the Senate, right, Becky? So now on to the House?
Well, it goes to the floor of the Senate for third read, hopefully this next week. And then there's a bill with Ben Baker in the House, HJR 104, and that's on the calendar for perfection. So every day I wake up and I check to see that they're on the calendar, and I hope that they'll be heard. And then so far every day I wake up and do the same. So I'm optimistic on Monday that the Senate Joint Resolution will go to the floor and it will pass, because every time we talk to people, they say they really want only citizens to vote. In fact, they're appalled that it's even a question.
Mrs. Arps, we appreciate you joining us live. And, of course, the third reading is more of a formality than anything else. That second reading is the big one. But nonetheless, you got to get to it. You're absolutely correct. And then we'll see what the House does. Ben Baker is from Neosho. I know you're right. There is confusion on how that would work. And even progressives were kind of upset about what happened, some of them, not all of them, to Katie Porter out in California, and maybe you can enlighten us on that, because basically you had Congressman Schiff, you had Steve Garvey, the Republican, former Dodger star, who got more votes than people were expecting, and then you had Katie Porter. And the conventional wisdom, I think, from a lot of progressives out there, California, was that it was either going to be Schiff and Porter or Porter and Schiff. Well, it turns out it was Schiff and then Garvey, and Katie Porter did not make it, and she was furious about that. Actually, if you look at her Twitter feed afterwards, she felt like a lot of dark money came in. But is that what you're referring to? Is that ranked voting? Is that something else out? What exactly is that out there?
In California, I'm guessing it probably is ranked choice voting, because they do tend to like to do things that complicate life.
I'm sorry, Becky and everyone, but I don't understand. And I think that Kamlavi Addisam from the Missouri News Network maybe agrees with me. Senate Joint Resolution SA 78, she writes, introduced by Senator Ben Brown, would also ban non-citizens from voting in any elections within Missouri, including local and county elections. Next sentence, this is already law. Why do we need to say only citizens when citizen is clearly defined? Right?
So if I have a party and I invite all the women I know, that doesn't mean that you guys can't come. But if I have a party and I invite only women, it's pretty clear you can't come.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
So if I have an election
good analogy,
and I invite all people, all citizens, that just means that all citizens are able to vote. But if I say only citizens, that means that only United States citizens can vote.
Okay, because I was thinking, I think if the law said all U.S. citizens, that would be another way to do the same thing, right?
No.
Yes,
it's the difference between all and only.
Well, but you're either a citizen. Once you're a non-citizen, you're not even in the discussion anymore.
But you're saying all citizens, but you're not excluding anybody. So all citizens, but not only citizens.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I'm not a lawyer.
And in Missouri, we also have this fun extra thing that if you're a city with over 400,000 people at any time in history, then you have the ability to regulate your own elections. St. Louis City is one of those cities. They have the ability to regulate their own elections. The Constitution provides them all powers within the General Assembly of the state of Missouri has with authority to confer upon any city. Right now, I'm honestly just waiting for the mayor of St. Louis to decide that we need to allow all of these non-citizens that are moving to St. Louis the opportunity to vote in city elections.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're
happens,
saying. Yeah.
It's harder to take it away.
Well,
I understand what you're saying. So all citizens would be invited to the election, but if a particular municipality wanted to say, well, okay, yeah, we're going to abide by the Constitution, invite all citizens, but we're also going to invite non-citizens to the election. I get it. Yeah.
That's it exactly.
See, Brian and John. Well, maybe not John, but Brian. See what I mean? Because you were looking bewildered too.
Yeah, I think
leave it to a woman to straighten us out. We just want to eat hot dogs and use our remote controller to watch the ball game. You know,
well, and it is to Becky's point. I know we've had listeners that's important to them, and obviously they feel that way. But it's a good explanation.
It is a great point. That
it's a
makes
good explanation.
sense.
But
and it's sad that we have to have it. Frankly, I mean, any municipality and the leaders therein. I mean, probably they were smoking dope before it was legal. I mean, I'm sorry. There's something wrong with you if you want non-citizens to vote, right? You got to be freaking crazy.
But the reporter you just, and I don't recognize the name of the reporter.
Kamlavi Adesem.
From whatever network that is, outlet that is, he or she is, I don't know who that is, but they are correct. They are correct in what they're saying, but I also understand what Becky Arps is saying now that she's explained it. But that reporter is correct in what they said.
Well, not really, because the reporter said it would ban non-citizens from voting in any elections, including local and county elections.
So, Becky, you're saying that's not necessarily correct.
That's not current law, right?
That it is true that right now, by saying all citizens, it doesn't mean that a municipality can't enfranchise.
It's not exclusive to citizens the way it's stated.
So, in other words,
yeah.
if they wanted to vote in the mayor's race in St. Louis, they just wouldn't be able to vote in a federal. Okay, I see. It gets confusing.
Yeah, I get it.
Confusing.
But the city has to enfranchise them.
Okay.
They can't just do it.
Yeah.
The city has to, but the city has the ability to enfranchise them.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I think as or more important is the ranked choice thing, right? Because, I mean, can you imagine you donate to a candidate, they get the most votes, but maybe they don't win in a runoff, because of they have to do some second place candidate.
Yeah, but I would, after all the discussion, I think people are hopefully listening closely on this, Randy and Mrs. Arps and everybody else. After everything we've just heard, to try to explain all that and what the reporter said and what Becky said, try to explain that in 15 seconds is hard to do to get it accurate when technically I guess they could go vote in the mayor's race in St. Louis. I can see why people get confused.
So, Becky, thank you for being with us. We're out of time. I can't believe the way this first of all, this is a very weighty topic, and I think people do need to really be able to have a resource to look at. And secondly, thanks for helping make it much more understandable with your analogy and your explanation. Where is the website? Where is the Twitter feed, the Facebook page? Where can people go to learn more about this, think about it over the weekend, and then get on their senators and representatives to vote for it?
You can go to onlycitizens.vote. And that is going to tell you all of this information. We've got that 15-second video. Good. We've got polling. And if you go to onlycitizens.vote/Missouri, you can see where the bills are, what the bills are, and have the opportunity to contact your legislator and let them know how important you think this is. That's onlycitizens.vote.
And again, just to be clear, even if the Senate and the House do produce this as an initiative, it's not law. It just puts it up to a ballot initiative. What would that be, August or November?
I'm guessing November, but I'm not positive. Okay. And then we, the United States citizens of Missouri, get the opportunity to weigh in on this.
Okay, sounds great. Hey, thanks so much, Becky. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the eclipse on Monday. Protect your eyes.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you. Coming up, What's Hot with Hannah? We'll see what's going on. I'll do better next week. What's hot?
Don't lie to me, Randy.
What's hot?
You'll have to forgive me because I spent a lot of time this morning trying to dig up the old show open, the jingle, a piece of Wake Up family history. I did finally find it. Maybe we can play that a little bit later this morning if we dare. But as you guys know, I have also been following the Final Four, or the NCAA March Madness tournament, on the men's and women's side. I completed brackets for both sides of the tournament and did not fare well in either bracket.
A lot of people didn't fare very well.
You're right. But of course, lots of eyes are on the Iowa Hawkeyes' Caitlin Clark breaking all sorts of records. They, secured their spot in the women's Final Four game, round of the tournament when they beat LSU earlier this week. And we're getting some, not to step on Stephanie's toes here, a little bit of business news about the resale market for tickets to these Final Four games. So on the men's side of the bracket, folks are selling their tickets that they have to the games for a little over $1,000 on average. The average price of a ticket for the women's side of the Final Four games, any guesses? It's
bunch.
Yeah, over $2,300 per ticket.
Yeah, wow.
So, point for the women.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing the same thing with the championship title games on both sides of the bracket. The men's tickets are going for less than half of what the women's tickets are going for. So go girls.
And
You're
if
right.
you look at the entry-level salary, WNBA is $62,000.
Yeah.
NBA, cool million.
You just had to go there, John.
Yep.
Didn't you?
Yep.
Now who's poopy pants?
Well, it does highlight the need to protect women's sports as it surges with stars like Caitlin Clark. And I think, it's under assault. It still is. And while I think we're seeing some cracks in the official organization's total hook, line, and sinker buying into the woke, who is set for execution next Tuesday, or between Tuesday and Wednesday anyway. And I hope that if he's listening, I hope Gary, who texted us, will call. He's got some personal experience with us and reminds us that it's easy for us to stand on the sidelines if we have not been personally touched by murder or someone we know or close to. And, what about those, the second victims of those crimes as it is? Need to really ponder that as well. So it's an interesting discussion. I wanted to talk about a fun story, though, because, you do get when the news cycle focuses, and John, you probably have to fight cynicism, being a news reporter for as long as you have been, and, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead, that whole deal.
It goes with the territory, unfortunately. I'm sure Brian would concur.
Yeah, and it's, so you have to occasionally pinch yourself and say, my gosh, there are millions and millions of people who daily do millions and millions of racks of actum kindness, acts of random kindness for people. School bus driver Larry Farish Jr. is known in his community for going above and beyond. And this is a story off of the Today Show. Drives a bus in Louisville, Kentucky. He noticed a little guy named Levi was having a tough morning. He said, normally when I pull up, he's standing there waiting for me with a big smile, but he wasn't so smiley that day. He had his jacket over his head. Farish is 35, the bus driver. He said, hey, buddy, what's going on? What's wrong? This first grader at the elementary school explained that he didn't have pajamas for pajama day. Farish closed the doors and watched as Levi slid into a seat away from his friends. He told himself, I thought I got to fix this. So he finished up his morning routes. He headed to a Family Dollar store, purchased 2 pairs of jammies for Levi, headed over to Levi's school to make things right. And he said, you were hurting this morning. You were crying, so I got you those pajamas. He was so excited. You should have seen how his face lit up. And there's this picture. It's just a fabulous picture of a big smile on the young man's face. It just it warms your heart to see this. Mr. Larry, as the kids call him, turned Levi's whole day around. I can tell Mr. Larry is nice and his heart is filled with joy, Levi said in a news release. When he got me the pajamas, I did a happy cry.
Oh, my heart.
And where this connects with what we've been talking about is Farish, who previously worked as a correctional officer and a truck driver, said he's found he's calling. So there you go. That's
very cool.
That's a pretty cool story.
Big old toothless smile
it's
from the
great.
little guy.
I mean, what is he missing? A couple of teeth. Well, he's got one big tooth missing there, but it's a beautiful, and his little. He's got his jammies, and I think that is maybe the jammies, right? It says All Star. All right,
those are cute.
Yeah,
and I don't think schools always realize how much pressure they put on families because it's not just pajama day.
Yeah.
It's this day and then that day and then this day and then that day. It's a good reminder.
Listener John texts us 874-9390. Says, dang it, Randy, I got dust in my eye now.
And I have to tell you, my daughter Shannon sent me this. I think it was daughter Shannon. One of my daughters, they both send me things. Occasionally Helene sends me this because they don't want me to be poopy pants.
I was going to
Randy.
say, they know how you are. They know your tendencies.
Well, but I think...
this show is brought to you by the rest of the Tobler family.
I think a lot of people in the medical profession will tell you that because we're just used to seeing a lot of bad stuff, and especially, well, we won't mix it with politics, but we see now that politics has gotten into medicine, we see a lot of bad stuff.
It's like lawyers. I mean, people don't go to the doctor when things are going great. Right. Same things. They don't show up and they don't call me when things are just awesome.
And we don't lead our newscasts off with you unless something bad has generally happened.
You learn, you take care of a patient, and so much of medicine is stress and stress management or mismanagement, and the stressors they have with family relationships that go south, and I mean just the terrible things that happen to people within families, and I don't know, you see a lot of this stuff, so it's great to see this happening, and I think it's an opportunity maybe to think as you have a chance to make a difference in someone's life, even if it's a little thing, I mean, I saw this story, and I don't know if I'd have done it otherwise. I hope I would have, but I was at an exclusive membership club last evening.
Makes it sound so fancy.
They sell some good pajamas and like workout stuff and other things.
But
really.
I was walking. I tend to park my truck far away because I do a lot of sitting behind a computer and in the office all day, and so
got to work off those breakfast sandwiches.
And if
somehow.
my wife doesn't make me get on the Peloton, I have to find a way to get some exercise. So, I parked far away, and there was this woman who had just struggled putting all of her stuff in her car and lifting, and then she started walking her cart towards the store to the next cart, little carriage there. And I said, I'm going that way. I'll take it for you, And she, that was nice of you. And I'm thinking, man, we just ought to look for ways to try to help people out because, ultimately, even though the government says they're here to help, whatever it is, whether it's a charity operation, whether it's a little thing that you can do for someone to help them get their goods into their car, whatever, look for opportunities to do that.
But I also think more importantly than just like helping random people is like making sure you're taking care of even the people that you know. And I think we oftentimes overlook the people in our lives. And I'm getting some texts from some people, but and this person in particular, I won't call them out, sent me like one of the nicest notes I've ever gotten. Wow. And it was, just out of the blue. And, you open it up and just makes your day. And I think, oftentimes we do. We overlook the people that really mean something to us, and taking a moment to let them know, I think, is really important.
No, you're so right. And while that's on my mind, couple of notes here. For Columbia is coming up in just a couple of weeks. Registration, should you like to do a random act of kindness for that event, is open till, I believe, the 15th of April. So there's just a little bit more time. That's for the April 27th day of service. Some of the folks at our church are actually laying the groundwork, literally, I think, pouring pads for some pavilion or doing. So they're doing things for people. And there's a lot of work that goes on to it by people behind the scenes. But if you want to contribute on that day, April 27th, just check out forcolumbia.com, forcolumbia.com. Registration closes April 15th. This is really a collaborative of several churches in the area. What was it, 40, 50? I don't know. There's a lot of them. And again, registration closes April 15th. Now, if you want to do a non-random, very targeted act of kindness for producer Hannah, because she deserves it, I want you to check out 939theeagle.com.
She needs new jammies?
I think it's more than needing new jammies. I think.
What do you get if you win? Like a plaque?
I don't know.
A party?
She needs a big virtual hug by you logging on every day and voting for her for Air Personality of the Year.
Student loan forgiveness?
And
we started
she deserves your vote for Air Personality of the Year inside Columbia.
You'll be lucky to get the jammies.
InsideColumbia.net. Well, maybe if she does win that title, that award, then as Best of Columbia's Air Personality, maybe, just maybe, she could send that to Joe Biden and say, "Look, I'm working hard.
Yeah.
What more do you want me to do? I'm living the American dream here. Give me a little relief."
You know, lots of folks who worked in the public service industry got loan forgiveness. And I mean, I could say, hey, President, I am a public service to the folks of mid-Missouri, right?
There you go.
A very humble one.
Yes.
All right, yeah.
I'm totally kidding before anyone wants to text me hate mail.
Let's see what Chris has to say on line one here on 874-9390. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, all right. Your story about the bus driver buying the kid pajamas kind of took me down memory lane. When I first started grade school, and this is back in the 60s, but like first, second, third grade, I had this bus driver who was a huge guy. I mean, 350, 400 huge. And it literally, he would break his bus seat once in a while. We hit a pothole. They'd have to weld it up some more. But he was one of them guys just loved kids, like nobody. And everybody loved him. And every time you'd have a holiday come around, or you're going to take spring break or summer break or whatever, we would veer off the route, head down some streets we didn't go down, and we'd end up at his mom and dad's house. And his mom would come out with all these big trays of cookies.
Oh, wow.
And everybody on the bus got cookies, and I'm thinking, today they'd probably fire you for veering off the route. And then he had one other tradition that everybody loved because they had a rule you couldn't get on the interstate. And we kind of went under and around it. We never got on it, but on those same days, he would take us on the Cloverleaf.
Oh.
And you can go up and down, you end up right back where you were,
yeah.
And we were all going like, woohoo, 50 mile an hour, So it was a big thrill for us. But, great guy that made your day and all. And like I said, we can't do that stuff no more.
You know what, Chris? If that happened today, he'd get in trouble because those were not sanctioned cookies, right?
And you weren't supposed to get on the highway.
Well, yeah.
Well, he was breaking the rules. We knew that.
God forbid you eat Mama's cookies because there may be a razor blade in there or something. Oh, man, it wasn't in a USDA approved and Boone County Health Department approved.
Grandma didn't have a license. You're right.
Crazy. Gone crazy.
That
The world's gone
cloverleaf
crazy.
thing makes it reminds me of the escalators in shopping malls that I am so thankful for, because my kids are like, "Woohoo! Can we ride the escalator?" I'm like, "Yep, just up and down, and they just have the best time, and it buys me a little bit of time."
Thanks for the story, Chris. Appreciate it. All righty.
That was good.
Yeah. That's a great thing. I mean, I think we all have those people in our lives in our young days that really probably help cement some of the goodness that our parents and our religious and other organizations, our Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, instilled into us. Just, doing the right thing and going a little extra mile for folks.
Well, but I think also showing up to work with like a spirit of helpfulness and fun. Like, I mean, there are days certainly that we all show up and we're like, oh, I do not want to be at work today, but the impact that you can make on others if you just wear a smile and find some fun.
You mean
I think
helpfulness and fun, like posting ridiculing videos of Randy with nauseating, pukey emojis?
Fun is fun,
I wondered if you saw that.
My wife, she's half asleep this morning. She says, "I don't think I'm okay with you being compared to Eric Greitens." I don't know. So you're gonna have to talk with her on that one.
Stephanie said it. I just made a creative editing choice, okay?
I tried to explain to her. I said, "Look, I used the word, you were going to make me pay penance for eating that." And suddenly everyone, the ladies in the studio went into
Boy, it
50
went right
Shades.
to the basement,
Right.
didn't it?
John, did you think that's what I was thinking? Only
Yes.
they were thinking 50 Shades of Grey.
John
No,
said yes.
they were taking you, down in the dungeon.
And then she said, you need to take off your clothes
Yeah.
No, that's after you
for
went
some
down
exercise.
if you want to
Needed
go
your chamois shorts.
if you want to go blue, I'll go deep blue, royal purple blue, by golly.
I'm just saying you started it.
Oh,
If you have no idea what we're talking about,
Good.
go check out the Wake Up Mid Missouri Facebook page. There is a clip that I posted last night from yesterday's show that you should check out.
All right, there you go. Oh man, I better John, do you have an extra room in your house I can go home to today? And
Don't have a Peloton. You might have to bring yours.
that's okay.
And his shorty shorts.
I'll wear my shorty shorts and my sneakers. We'll go for a run. John, you want to do that?
There we go.
All right. What's up when we come back with the John segment?
Well, this little guy. The number of infections is more than doubled in the last 10 years, and the disease is often associated with exposure to armadillos.
Oh, no.
About a fifth of the cases in the U.S. reported in Florida. Health officials say people can get infected from other people with untreated leprosy or from the 9-banded armadillo, a host of the bacteria that causes the disease. Some people in Central America actually eat armadillos. It's traditional in Oaxaca, Mexico. No season on them in Missouri, but you can shoot them or trap them if they're tearing up your garden. And our interesting fact, armadillo was eaten in the U.S. during the Great Depression, referred to by poor folks as possum on the half shell. And now you know the rest of that story.
That visual is just, it's horrid but funny at the same time.
We need to get the armadillo killer Brian Hauswirth on some population control measures.
We do.
You know, you mentioning leprosy brings up, do you have, Stephanie?
Do I have leprosy? No.
No, when you think back to your law school days, are there trivial facts that just stick in your mind that for no real reason, but like if you were asked to recall them or if something comes up in a news story, it's like it flashes across your mind. Some minutia about the founding fathers and Constitution or something.
There's like ongoing jokes about the rule against perpetuities.
Okay, yeah. So I remember one of the common questions in med school exam was, what is the antibiotic for leprosy? Well, I mean, who's going to see leprosy? We don't see leprosy. It's called Dapsone. Isn't that a great Dapsone? And I just remember that. So every time there's a story about lepers or leprosy or a biblical, we're reading the Bible about leprosy, yeah. I'm like, Dapsone. Yeah.
I know.
I nailed that question, baby.
Amelia, when they did their recent trivia competition, there was like several questions about tuberculosis, I think.
Yeah.
And what's the one that you die of on the Oregon Trail?
Dysentery?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was an answer maybe too, but like she was getting them confused because they have been playing Oregon Trail, but then they were also studying for the trivia bowl.
Oh man.
Well, and the World Health Organization on Twitter yesterday or the day before, I saw that they were posting that diphtheria is on the rise.
Yeah. Well, that's because people aren't getting vaccinated.
Yep, that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Tdap,
is that the Tdap? Yeah.
Tdap is tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. And people just have rejected all vaccines. I mean, I see it every day. Talk to any of the docs that
but
you know.
But do you blame them / us?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Well, that's wrong.
Well, I mean, look, just because the Studebaker wasn't a really great car doesn't mean all cars are bad, right? I mean, just because there's some ambulance chasing lawyers who are really, you guys aren't proud of them.
I'm not saying all doctors
doesn't mean
are...
all lawyers are bad. Well, just because one vaccine, and by the way, the vaccine was helpful for the right people at the right time.
But it was also harmful to some people.
Mom and Dad are fighting.
But that doesn't mean.
But
you
here,
should be...
take this. It's good for you. Then it turns out not to be good for you. And then the next time, here, take this. It's good for you. And I say no.
But you see, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
I don't know. I mean, I was never a person to get a flu shot. I didn't want any extra.
All these unvaccinated people coming across the border are bringing malaria and tuberculosis.
I have the serious ones. I'm not a crazy person.
Hey, John, can you pass the popcorn?
But just don't. But I don't blame people for not for saying, you know what? Like you told me, you're telling me lies, and you told me to believe you before, and I did.
Okay.
And you
creepy or otherwise bad ads or other sound bites in the past. Earlier, we played a couple of old guys got together and did a Bill Eigel song, and we need to play it again. It's hilarious. A couple of old dudes, and they did a Bill Eigel for governor thing. Played the Trudy Bush sound as well. Which
was super cringe.
That was an old promo for Wake Up Columbia. Now, look, we've got to settle a score here. By the way, winners and losers coming up at 8:35. Make sure that you have your list ready, and you can text us with that. That's the time when we talk about the winners and losers of the week. So I keep taking heat because I have a little bit of a routine. It's not exactly the same every morning, but we buy this low-fat string cheese at where you can get it anywhere, hermetically sealed, and I daily will offer my string cheese to Stephanie, who loves cheese, but she doesn't think that's really cheese, right?
Not string cheese.
And Hannah, and they say, "Oh, that's creepy. You pull it out of your pocket." Here's what really happens. Okay, here we go. For those of you watching, I take my coat.
Here, I'll go full screen for this.
I take my coat. I have my coat. It's laying in there in the control room where Hannah sits, and I have my string cheese. Here it is, along with here's my bottle of my supplements. Here's my supplements, right? See my supplements?
Are your eye drops in
there?
there?
My wife gives me my supplements. I take those throughout the day, and I have.
You're like a small child.
Here we go. I got 2 things of hermetically sealed. This is sealed cheese.
Not refrigerated.
It came out of my pocket an hour and a half or 2 ago.
It's been longer than that, Randall.
No.
Yes, it's
been. No. These come out every morning. My wife lays it out in the kitchen with not one, but 2 mandarin oranges. Here's the other one.
You got to the radio station over 2.5 hours ago.
And I graciously, John,
and you
offer
could put that
them
in the fridge.
I could be eating this, but I unselfishly, selflessly, I offer them, and they not only reject it, and their nose goes up like this, and they roll their eyes, and they call me creepy because I offered them hermetically sealed cheese.
If there was like a multiple choice question, like should you accept cheese out of a man's pocket
from a stranger?
That's warm.
But it's sealed. What could I do to taint this cheese?
Gross. It's just it's weird.
I wonder what their response would be if you whipped out the can of bacon-flavored spray cheese and offered a squirt to them. Right in your mouth, like with the whipped cream.
If you suddenly pulled out one of those McDonald's bagel sandwiches that was still hot out of your pocket and said, then the answer would be different. No, it would be yes. It would be like, oh, you just got some McDonald's? Yes.
You got to be kidding me. That could have... That could have lint. That could have lint all over it and everything.
It could be warm from being in his coat pocket for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, true.
But a wrapper is much different than a hermetically sealed plastic.
I wouldn't eat that anyway, like out of your pocket and straight out of the fridge.
To be clear,
so good.
I was not calling you creepy. I was calling the act of pulling snacks out of your pocket and offering them to people creepy.
I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm not creepy. My kids call me. My kids say I'm maybe spectrum, but that's not creepy. That's different. I mean, that's just because I do things differently doesn't mean it's creep. Brian, would you have some string cheese if I offered you string cheese? You'd eat it, wouldn't you?
Huh? What is that?
String cheese.
That's been in his pocket for 3 hours.
Brian only eats Cracker Barrel. Yeah. That's enough.
I understand.
All right. Hey, we got some serious stuff going on here in mid-Missouri, including an appeal by Pete Adkins to have a convicted murderer sentence commuted because he's scheduled for execution on Tuesday, right? There was also a hammer incident that we need to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to emphasize one thing. I've seen some comments on our Mid-Missouri Facebook page.
I'm going to eat my string cheese.
Yeah, you go ahead. Somebody's asking it's a legitimate question. Was he sentenced to death or not? And they're asking this on 93.9 The Eagle. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook. For both KWAS and also the Eagle. And the answer is yes, he was sentenced to death. He was sentenced to death. Actually, he is under 2 death sentences. It's not technically, he is under 2 death sentences. But again, it's important to note, folks, and this will be on the website. I'm going to get a picture up as well with Dorsey, who's still at Potosi here shortly. The governor still has the right, if he so chooses, he could commute that sentence to life in prison without parole. whether people know it or not, technically the governor could sign a piece of paper to allow not only to do that, but the governor could release him from prison. I don't expect that to happen. I think the best hope for Dorsey is being commuted to life in prison without parole. I still think that's a long shot, considering what Governor Parsons' record in the past, but nonetheless, I'm sure he is looking at that. But I think there's confusion from listeners. They just think because he's under a death sentence, it automatically will happen. But the governor he has clemency rights. They just don't use it very often. The other opportunity for Dorsey would be the courts, but that would be an uphill battle as well, because the courts have, at this point, all his appeals have been turned down. So really, it's going to be a long shot. We probably won't see a lot of movement on that till Monday and Tuesday, but that's huge. And you talked about this hammer attack. This is, I think, very interesting, and again, a story I'm working on. Don't have a mugshot on this guy, but actively right now, the Columbia Police and other law enforcement authorities, Randy, are looking for a guy named Curtis Hayner, Hoener. He lives in Holt Summit. He is a biker. I've read the court documents. They are horrendous, and the court documents quote the victim, one of the two victims, is saying that this guy identified himself several times that night at the bar as a Hells Angels motorcycle gang member as well. So that is, you got a lot of things going on right now in mid-Missouri. They're looking for him as we speak. If people know where he is, they need to call the authorities.
What happened to those people?
They were beaten with hammers. According to again, whether or not he is a Hells Angels motorcycle gang member, the victim says that this guy identified himself several times that night as a Hells Angels motorcycle gang member. That won't probably come out officially until, if he's captured when he would go to trial, if and when he goes to trial. But it's on video based on the court documents.
Didn't he leave his ID at the bar?
He left the ID too.
Said?
They left the ID at the bar, which also puts that's going to hurt his defense quite a bit. But they have all of this captured on video, on the surveillance video. And one of the victims was hit in the head at full strength 8 times with a hammer, and the person was stuttering and had a hard time. The police even put in the police report, does this person always stutter? The guy that got hit in the head so many times, 8 times, that was on top of being hit earlier in the head, so probably a total of 10 to 12. And they said, no, he just started stuttering when he got hit in the head. So when we say full force, we're talking about full force. So, yeah, this is, again, a week of not so great news about Columbia. And our men and women and our law enforcement are actively looking for this person. And have to deal with a lot of issues. And that nurse at University Hospital had a tough job. Or Boone Hospital had a tough job as well.
Yeah. It's the world's a crazy place, huh? And more and more, I think we need to really look at some spiritual answers rather than legislative or justice answers. We need those. We talk about those a lot, but I don't know. That's not going to be the ultimate solution, right? The ultimate solution is to realize it's not all about you. And there is accountability, and all of these things put them into a bucket. And maybe people have some different thoughts before they act out impulsive behavior. But I don't know. I guess there's nothing new under the sun. That's also true, right? It's gone on for thousands of years.
It is, but it's just we're seeing a trend right now in the last couple of weeks where it's been very violent. There's no question, and we hope that we had been very, very fortunate that we had several months without a whole lot of activity, but this is concerning. Nonetheless, we had another fire overnight as well.
So Sean, under a fake name, says, I couldn't listen to you 2 years ago push the clot shot, and you still defend it, and then to not even question other vaccines. So the same drug companies who have introduced opioids, the COVID death shot, and countless other harmful medications that they've had to pay out billions in penalties are 100% to be trusted on vaccines. I don't think I said that. Wonder why I keep turning you off. People are literally dying, being injured in mass numbers from the vax, and you keep defending it without pause. That's not what I said. I said the vaccine at the right time in the right place. I proudly took the vaccine, and given a brand new virus, would use the same platform because of my situation and others would be at higher risk from a similar new novel virus. So, Sean, come and have a conversation with me sometime. Stop by the office. We'll talk a little bit about how vaccines, water sanitation, and antibiotics have changed the life expectancy in this planet, and especially in the Western civilization, Western societies, from 50-ish to north of 70, almost to 80, largely because of water sanitation, vaccinations, and antibiotics. And I don't know how those proportion out, but those are the three that all of the medical historians look at. But of course, they don't know anything either because they're part of some vast right-wing medical conspiracy to kill you with vaccines.
I mean, I think I'm going to say I told you so. I predicted this a long time ago, and I think others did as well, was that, if all of what they were saying turned out not to be true, I said my fear, and I think it's coming to fruition, is that people will deny certain medical treatments that are actually good for them because of their skepticism over what the healthcare industry did to us during COVID. Yeah. And I think we're going to see that increased. I think it's right to be skeptical currently in today's current environment, but I think there are people out there who will not take things that they should take that would help them, and that is not. But I don't fault them for that at all, because for being skeptical. And I think it's an externality of what happened during COVID, and it's going to be tough to watch some people make those decisions for themselves, but I still believe in their right to make that decision for themselves.
And that wasn't my proposition. I was in no way, in fact, I was part of I was mentioned in Eric Schmidt's suit.
You were.
To try to prohibit the government from forcing healthcare workers to have to take the vaccine. So, Sean, in fairness, you don't have to take a vaccine. That's fine. There was a time in the new virus world at that time where, especially as it turns out in retrospect, for a lot of people, it was a life-saving deal. It changed the equation from what was a fatal disease for many at high risk to a serious disease that they survived.
Yeah. Still killed 1 million people in the U.S.
No. It was the vaccine that killed 1 million people, John. Don't you know that? I mean, come on, that's what Sean said.
1 million deaths were attributed.
No, I know. No, look, I know. And there were some misattributions. I have been very vocal about that. People gamed some of the system. If a motorcycle death, and the person tested positive for COVID and had no pulmonary injury or other reason that they would get paid for that. That's a political policy thing, okay? And
keeps
that's a different
CDC
discussion.
Running, doesn't it?
That's a different discussion, okay? My point is, Sean, look, think about what you're saying. The countless other harmful medications that they've had to pay are 100% to be trusted on vaccines. I never said that. But Sean, I wonder, when the day comes when you need big pharma, and Sean, the day will come, unless you die some tragic, violent death. Okay. But if it's a medical illness, you get lupus, you get severe psoriatic arthritis, ulcerative colitis. I could name hundreds of diseases. And big pharma comes to the rescue. Be consistent. Deny big pharma. Go to take some witch doctor's jungle medicine and see how that works out for you.
Let's give Sean something to feel good about, though. I was looking at all the things included in this $51 billion state budget that went out of the House this week. green, and I was like, "Ooh, maybe it'll be a good day." It was a terrible day for the markets.
Way to go, Steph.
I know, I
Way to
jinxed
go.
us. The S&P closed down 1.23%, Dow more than that, and the Nasdaq rounding out with the biggest losses at 1.4%. All the sectors saw losses, the biggest among technology, health, and communication services. There's really only one place to go up. And that's up, right, Randy? So we're in the green today on the futures so far, but we are getting new jobs numbers out just now. And I suspect that will keep us in the green today. The U.S. economy added 303,000 jobs in March. Unemployment rate slipped down to 3.8%. Now, they were expecting just 200,000 jobs, so that is a big over expectation of jobs now. But if you recall last month when we covered this and we heard the jobs numbers, they had then since revised the previous month's jobs and was like, oh, yeah, we didn't add that many. We actually added fewer. So I'm we talked about skepticism in the last segment. I'm very skeptical that we actually added 303,000 jobs. I don't see a revision right now for last month's jobs numbers, but they have been retroactively revising these numbers, which I'm like, why do we announce these if they are wrong? So I'm not taking too much from this, really good news jobs report because, like I said, they've been revised in the past.
And, there's also some interesting breakdown on where those jobs have gone, or have come from. A lot of them are from immigrants. A lot of them are part-time jobs. And so when you talk about new full-time jobs, and then you subtract the replacement jobs that were lost during pandemic, I think the administration has really oversold their work on employment, don't you think?
I think they have. And everyone you talk to, I was visiting a larger employer here in Columbia yesterday, and they were saying how hard it was to find people. And you see just help wanted everywhere. I know the state
in 874-9390, because there are winners and losers all the time, and we don't, we try to keep a little compendium of them, and maybe you've done that throughout the week.
Compendium.
Compendium is the word. So Hannah, let's start with you.
No,
winners and losers.
That's not fair. Okay, I am trying to figure out how to most nicely say this.
Yes.
You say bless their heart before it comes out, okay, Hannah?
Yeah. The Bill Eigel campaign that just released this campaign song.
Bless his heart.
Here's a sample if you didn't catch it earlier.
Eigel is the eagle to make Missouri fly. Eigel is the eagle to make Missouri fly.
So, as Stephanie said, bless their hearts. I don't fault them. They're not my losers of the week.
Okay.
The two older gentlemen. It's the Eigel campaign for making an official campaign trailer commercial out of this. But my winner of the week is Jack. I actually have two zingers of his from this week that I feel like are worth repeating. Stephanie knows exactly where this is going. We have been talking a lot about the McDonald's breakfast bagels that have returned from their hiatus, and Randy was really liking the steak breakfast bagel. And Jack texted us this week and said, "Is the steak bagel grass-fed? We know how important that is for Randy." That was a good one.
That's a good one.
And then we've also been talking a lot about how Randy offers us warm string cheese from his pocket.
Yeah.
And Randy doesn't see that offering people snacks from your pocket is
my
a little
coat
creepy.
pocket hanging on a chair, not my pants pocket. Let's be clear about that.
In that context, Jack
Room
texted.
temperature.
Jack texted and said, "Want some string cheese? I have Wi-Fi in my big white van. Does this handkerchief smell like chloroform?"
It's funny how you guys invent your own facts to try to demean my generosity towards you, but that's okay.
Don't make me play the snowflake song.
I can take it.
You'll be fine.
I can take it.
Yep.
It's okay. Okay.
That banjo, by the way, with Senator Eigel that Hannah played, that in parts of Missouri, southeast, I've heard those banjos. Southeast Missouri for sure.
Those gentlemen are among my winners because they had the courage and the fortitude and the drive to produce a song in support of their candidate. That is Americana. So they are among the winners, along with that bus driver who gave pajamas to the little guy down in Louisville. Mm-hmm. Stephanie?
Okay, I've got some winners. I'm pulling a Brian Hauswirth this week. I don't think I have any losers.
Boo.
So we missed this earlier this week, but I got to say Taylor Swift officially joins Forbes' billionaire list. So good on her. We knew that Eras Tour was making her a lot of money, but she finally made the list and is getting the credit she deserves.
Love to see it.
Love to see that. Also, Brian Hauswirth, I'm going to need your help here,
Okay.
but sports is not really my thing, but apparently Mizzou landed one of the top quarterback prospects yesterday, Matt Zollers. What do we know about him, Brian?
And I'm going to have a very similar, I've got a little bit similar to that in there. He is a 4-star quarterback, a pro-style quarterback. He is from Royersford, Pennsylvania, and that's Big Ten country. You normally go to Penn State. Huge recruit. It's one of the biggest recruits I can remember in recent memory, and Elijah Drinkwitz is thrilled. It's a big deal because Alabama and Georgia were really after him.
Good. Well, so that I love seeing good Mizzou news. So that's really exciting. I think after the disappointing basketball season that we had, everyone's kind of looking forward to football season. So excited for that. Obviously, a big Cardinals win yesterday. So that's exciting for opening day and all my Cardinals fans. Also, I've been we're starting to, so the House passed the budget this week, and we're starting to kind of get some summaries of what actually is in that. Now, of course, it has to go over to the Senate, so it's not going to survive. But I did hear a lot of folks last year really excited about the I-70 expansion, excited about all that work, but a lot of people were saying, what about I-44? We need some help there. And actually the House budget includes $727 million to widen I-44 to 6 lanes in Springfield, Joplin, and Rolla. So for the citizens, if you spend a lot of time on I-44, that's, I think, a big win for those people. Again, there's some more hurdles to cross, but to know that that the legislature is making that a priority for people in those areas, I think I think Missouri is an important transportation state, and I think investment in infrastructure is important. So, especially for people who drive that area a lot.
Oh, that's huge. And we had Don Mayhew on the show the second day of session. If you remember, people kind of mocked him because he actually technically proposed changing the name of I-44 to I-70. He was so upset he was sending a message. He ends up getting what he wants. Cody Smith and him end up getting more than they could have thought. That's huge.
And I do think we're hearing that there could be a compromise on the landfill trash bill. We'll have more about that, I'm sure, next week.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. John, what's on your list, brother?
I've got a mixed bag. I think the first one will go with a loser and blame it on Mother Nature, dropping up to baseball-size hail on both the Russellville and Wardsville areas. We got pictures from one of our coworkers of the Blair Oaks football field that looked like it had snow on it the other night. And this one, a loser to Mother Nature, but a winner to the emergency responders who had to rescue some folks that night from flooded cars in Jefferson City.
Wow.
And a win, a loss, I don't know. They're splitting up the Linthicum sisters. The three sisters, Jefferson City J grads, who all played their college ball for the Mizzou Lady Tigers. Sarah Linthicum's entered the transfer portal, so she won't be playing with her sisters Micah and Hannah on the Tigers next season.
And I was going to nominate the. Do you have any losers, John? We don't have a lot of losers.
Just Mother Nature.
That's all. Okay. I didn't know if you had any people losers. I was going to propose before I heard a little bit more about the story, and I'm still not sure where we land on this, but the LSU team, was not on the court during the Star-Spangled Banner during that. What was it? The eight
would have been Monday night.
Yeah.
It was right after we got done with severe weather.
And so, and I guess the coach there, who's a conservative, I understand, right? A pretty outspoken one, I think.
I don't.
Legendary female basketball coach.
Kim Mulkey. I don't know her politics.
As far as I think she is. At any rate, she, I guess, said, "Hey, we didn't know it was going on. They didn't let us know. We were in the locker room, and So I don't know. I don't know that I'm ready to rush to judgment then, because I sort of judged them early when the reports came out that they weren't on the. How could you not know the Star-Spangled Banner? But maybe it's the responsibility of the Coliseum owners, the stadium owners, whoever, to tell them. I don't know, but you'd think you'd want to be there for the Star-Spangled Banner, wouldn't you?
I would, and they may not. Yeah, that's again, we'll see what happens on that. But yeah, you would want to be out there, I would think, for the anthem, and the Iowa players were.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't know the coach's politics on that.
Yeah.
But
Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, he got wound up. He said LSU players might miss out on some scholarships because of it.
Whoa! Yeah, holy cow! Yeah, so it's tough to say there. Do we have any winners and losers on the text here? Guys, taking a look here. I don't see any there. Now, Jim is defending cheese, by the way. He reminds us in a shop in Italy, an ugly American sees hundreds of waxed wheels of Parmigiana on wooden shelving and asks the shopkeeper if it needs refrigeration. Duh. When the shopkeeper responds in Italian, the stupid American asks again louder, most cheese contains a lot of salt, negating the need for refrigeration. If it gets moldy, cut off the mold and enjoy even better flavor.
I think we also have another winner with a T-shirt that somebody texted in. Was it Mike, Hannah? Who is coming to my rescue in that Venn diagrams can be quite funny.
Yeah, they can be.
He sends us a photo of a T-shirt. And, of course, the Venn diagram, if you're not remembering, is the graph where it's two circles that intersect, and the middle is a category, and then each circle is a category, right? And so the circle on the left says dad. The circle on the right says jokes. And then the middle portion is labeled where the magic happens. And I told Mike, I said, finally, a Venn diagram joke that I can get behind.
That's awesome.
Now, I know when we come back, I know we're going to, Hannah, I'd like you to relate a story you want to tell about the eclipse coming up on Monday.
Right? Oh, yeah. Y'all need to keep your fingers crossed for my husband.
And I've got 3 winners, and I also have a loser.
Brian,
by the
go.
way.
Oh, did we skip you?
Yeah.
No.
Brian,
sorry.
go for it. Go for it, Brian.
So we've got a loser, too. I don't normally have a loser.
Well,
but
Brian never has a loser.
Somebody is about
belly
to be...
up to the radio on this
Somebody
one.
is about to be bashed, so you're going to want to listen to this in just a second. So I got 3 quick winners. John referenced it, the storm coverage that Cosmo and I did Monday night on all of our stations, including KWS and the Eagle. not only did they do the water rescues that John referenced, but also the Jeff City Fire Department rescued a boater that lost control with the tornado warning approaching. And I checked with Jay Niemeyer and confirmed it. It was so bad, the hail was coming down so hard, they couldn't see the river. That's how dangerous it was. So kudos to them for getting out there, and they were in very difficult lightning coming down. They were able to rescue that family. Stephanie referenced it. Matt Zoller's a 4-star recruit. Elijah Drinkwitz is going to be one of my winners of the week. If you don't know much about Elijah, he loves donuts. I can tell you that for a fact. So, Elijah, you're probably listening. I'm telling you right now, you deserve 10 chocolate Long Johns at your favorite donut place. And make sure, and double them up, double chocolate on that, and 6 glasses of milk with that as well. And last but not least on the winners, Harry Parker is the owner of Gulf Shores Restaurant in St. Louis. If you've been to St. Louis, you know where it is. Creve Coeur. 28 years he spent at DuPont. Big corporate executive. He owns the restaurant now, and he helped my mom last week. My mom's had a lot of health issues, and that's putting it mildly, and he helped me get her out of the restaurant. I'm not going to try not to choke up, but he went above and beyond the call of duty. I actually put a picture of that up at Brian on the Air on my Twitter page of him helping my mom out of the restaurant. So really kudos to him for that. And a quick loser. I went to Easter Vigil Mass last night. I was hungry last Saturday night. 3-hour Mass. I joked to the priest. We had 6 overtimes in the Mass. So a 3-hour Mass, I needed something to eat. I went to McDonald's, and I ordered some food, and they told me at a local McDonald's that someone had just come through and ordered $105 worth of food. They cooked it all, and then the person said they didn't have enough money and left. They drove off. That's my loser of the week. Yeah. You don't do that to.
Did you get a free burger out of the deal?
No, I didn't ask, and that's just so rude. Yeah. What is wrong with people? What is wrong with
Brian?
people?
I don't know. You've been asking. I've been asking that question forever. I don't know what's wrong with people.
Manners. Yeah. It really bothers me. And then some people think that's perfectly appropriate. No, it's not. It is not. So,
and the problem is, that.
They were in there cooking all that.
That's right, yeah. and they're already
go to the Mickey D's next to the dispensary next.
They're already busy and understaffed, and that was wasted work. It was wasted product.
Yes, it was. It was wasted.
Okay, back to the good news.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jim is reminding us that the 2nd Ward of City of Columbia is our winners because they elected Lisa Meyer.
That's right. tours us. What's going on about your eclipse watching, Hannah?
Well, I'm watching the UPS tracking information on the 80 pairs of eclipse glasses that my husband ordered on Amazon. It was one of those things that he ordered for everyone in his office. And, his boss said, hey, we'll compensate you for them. But now the box is delayed. And so the box of 80 eclipse glasses isn't supposed to be at our house until Monday.
Where did the 80?
Monday is the eclipse.
Where did the 80 come from? Was it a mistake?
No, he's ordering them for his office.
Oh, for everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my question is,
why would he do that?
Because he's too nice. He's a lot nicer person than I am. But the boss is supposed to reimburse him, right? But what if they don't make it on time? Are we still going to get our money back?
Can you
or
return
just
them?
leave him in the dark?
So that's what I'm worrying about with the eclipse.
That happened last Friday. Remember when Sammy filled in? She had because she
We
ordered
weren't here.
She ordered. Well, no, you weren't there. She ordered a couple of red shirts, and I had reminded her. And she listens to the program. She texts us and all that. And she felt so bad because I think Monday or Tuesday she had ordered something, and normally it doesn't take that long, but I think it came that afternoon or Saturday. So,
Whoops.
But she had a little flag. Yeah.
I thought this was cute. My sister, her employer dropped off a little bag in like a space-themed bag and gave them eclipse presents. And in the bag was eclipse gum, a moon pie, and a Sunny D. I was like, that's really cute.
I like that.
I do too.
NASA is reminding us, if you're going to get glasses, make sure that they have the ISO 12312-2 international standard. I picked some up over at Hy-Vee on Conley, and they were little paper things with a couple of dark inserts in them. It says ISO, doesn't have the numbers, and it says USA, made in USA. I don't know. I looked through them. I couldn't see anything looking at the lights in the Hy-Vee, but I don't know whether that's adequate or not. I hope so. I assume it is.
I wonder if there's like a big spike in eye doctor appointments after the eclipse.
Guess we'll find out if they're okay, Randy.
No.
But there's if you want to be absolutely sure, there's an indirect way to view it. And there's Tony Lupo joined us last week to discuss this. But if you go to science.nasa.gov.
I remember making one of these in elementary school, like the box.
You take a box, and who doesn't have an Amazon box or some box laying around?
Ask me on Monday.
Camera is what they used to call
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Now, I didn't see this aluminum foil with a pinhole.
We did
That was how we used to make them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you could actually put a piece of raw film back in the pre-digital era in it and make a shoebox camera that would actually develop.
So you have on one side of the viewing side, you put this aluminum foil with a pinhole, and then in the center is your opening in the box for viewing. And then, or I guess over on the right, and you have an open in the box. So on opposite ends of that one side, one is a little pinhole through some aluminum foil in the box. The other is, viewing. And then you look in the back, and the white paper screen taped to the inside end of the box, and a small image of the partially eclipsed sun you'll see there. So that does work. It really does. And that's an absolute safe way to do it. I don't know of any way to vet whether the glasses you buy are good or not. I guess it's buyer beware. You can